when people are dealing with entities and deities, and when they're on ayahuasca or DMT, you can't trust them, what you're dealing with. So everyone that's going and saying, oh, it's wonderful, and I mean, to think that you can heal yourself of just going and taking some jungle juice of a lifetime worth of trauma, it's just not realistic. I mean, it's just another expression of this kind of like quick fix society, that with fast food society, like people now want their trauma dealt with in one hit.
Welcome to the Red Pill Sangha podcast. Diet, lifestyle, spirituality, tales of healing. The Sangha, the collective, is waking up. Links below to my autoimmunity consults, online course, books, support groups, and live events. Check them out. Right, hello everybody, and back here with my new Red Pill Sangha podcast. And here's a guest who I had on my Red Pill Buddhas podcast a while ago. It was 2022, I think, maybe 23. But it was an amazing chat, actually. I'm going to have to link it below. So I'm going to try and do some different stuff today. But Tony is amazing. He continues to entertain me massively on his YouTube channel with his New Age Deception series. And I love it because this is so close to my heart. And for anybody who didn't hear the last episode, I met Tony through Facebook when he'd had a similar journey to me and woken up to the vegan nonsense. And I'd wade in and help him with a load of attacking vegans. I have a load of attacking vegans, but Tony seems to have a particular talent for getting hordes of them in at the same time. And it was quite hilarious.
Not even vegans, everyone. I seem to just get under everyone's skin somehow.
That's cool. You know, there's no flack unless you're over the target. So, exactly. Mate, welcome back and lovely to see you. And
yeah, thanks for having me
back on. Cool.
And yeah, thanks for having me. And I'm glad I made it in time.
Yeah, that was close.
Shot out of bed. But yeah, I'm here and yeah, looking forward to getting into it. And yeah, I mean, you mentioned there the funny side of it all, you know, when people get triggered and everything. But I think we had this conversation maybe on our, we don't mean to trigger people or, you know, get under their skin, but it's just the nature of the beast, isn't it? When you challenge what people think is correct or true, and they're in their comfort zone, they don't like it, and so then they lash out at you. And I think with me, I tend not to like flower things up or fluff things up. I'm quite direct, and I think maybe that can be an issue with some people. I don't think we have time to, you know, flower things up. And I think that where we are right now, I think we have to start getting to these objective truths and stop, you know, falling for all this stuff, because time's passing by. And, you know, I just see that we have this window of opportunity, and it's important that we get it right. And so yeah, hopefully we'll all get there.
Yeah, I think this business of not speaking out. You had one of your New Age Deception little shorts on YouTube. I loved because it was "We've already won." You know, and I'm running into this a lot in the sort of truther movement, because I play a lot of these festivals with the Daz band, and although I find that a ton of people are waking up, like I did a talk there as well as playing one time with Ben Hunt on the War on Meat, and apparently this 38-year vegan went out and got their first ever burger, no bun. And then about a couple of weeks later, I was also playing a festival, and she came up and she just hugged me and said, "I can't believe it. All the life energies come back into my body. It was so cool." And a lot of people are waking up there, but a lot are still saying, yeah, well, it was back in 2012 or whatever they say. Yeah, it was already won. Where do you think this is coming from?
Well, like I said in the short, it's a very dangerous approach to take, because if you take on the belief system that we've already won, and the matrix is coming down, or I'm quite prominent in the soul trap community, soul trick I prefer to call it. I don't really like the term soul trap. And same things going on in there at the moment, where there's certain people coming out saying that the soul trap has ended. This is the last cycle, and then you look at the whole QAnon with the whole the Trump tards, that they were all saying that we'd already won back 3 or 4 years ago, and clearly we haven't. And of course, it feels good to believe that. I get it. But it's dangerous, because if you take on that belief system that we've already won, then you can maybe put your tools down and just stop searching, stop going any further with things, and stop resisting, and basically, yeah, it just stops you in your tracks, because you think that we've already won, or the system's over with, the system's crumbling. In actual fact, I actually see it the other way. I think they're locking down even more. They're bringing in all this technological stuff. Whether they're going to get all of this is another question. I mean, again, that's down to us. But if we think that we've already won, then we're less likely to push back on these things. And I take the opinion that even if we have already won, and let's just say the whole soul trick is coming to an end, and this is the last cycle, I'm still not taking my foot off the pedal. I'm still going all out to expose this stuff. I'm still going to be working on myself. Your field is diet, my sort of energy and that kind of inner work stuff. And yeah, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to make sure that personally I'm as strong as possible. And I think as a species, we need to get as strong as possible, because these psychopaths, I mean, when you go behind the curtain, they're actually entities in terms of the fourth dimension, which is where this is all coming from. They don't mess around. If they say they're going to do something, they do it. I mean, I don't like what they do, but I respect them as an enemy. They're a very strong enemy, and they've had us locked down for God knows how many thousands of years, reset after reset. So I'm not taking them lightly. And I just think that they would love us to believe that it's all over and all done with. Of course, you mentioned, people are waking up. We look at the last 5 years, I think the whole illness, I won't say it, woke a lot of people up. A lot of people that I work with, they said, yeah, I saw it. That's what started it for me. So, but have we won? Is this the end? Are we going to be walking into the new earth, the 5D ascension, where everything's love and light and unicorn farts? I don't think so. So all I'm saying is just be very cautious with these belief systems that are put out there. And I think the safest way to play it is, even if you do believe that we've won, just don't take your foot off the gas with everything.
Yeah, and I am actually getting several apologies, which I didn't get. I think the last time we spoke, I don't think I'd had any. But now, sadly, it's mostly when people have got sick. And I've had quite a few people say, I'm really sorry and I really regret it. And when I listen to the statistics of how many people are taking these poisons these days, it's right down. And so I believe you that they're doubling down with other things, because it's like the struggles of a dying beast. It's a cornered animal, isn't it? And that's when they're the most dangerous. But something I wanted to ask you about, what is your take on a lot of this being thrown around these days, NPCs, the non-player characters? Do you think there are actually people who are in some kind of a simulation here, and they actually don't have souls and don't have the same kind of consciousness? Somebody said something interesting a while ago. I don't know if it was you actually, but How many times have you seen any of your neighbors actually bring home the shopping?
That was me.
Was
Yeah.
it you?
Yeah.
I thought it might have been.
Once you see it, you can't unsee it either. I can't remember the last time I saw a neighbor bring in some shopping. And actually, the last couple of neighbors I haven't even seen. They've just like literally moved in, and all they do is make a massive racket, play their music really loud, bang, make all this noise. But whenever I go out, I never see them. It's almost like they're kind of stagnant in their apartment like that. And then someone presses go, and then they're like banging around, and it's just crazy. But yeah, it's a concept that some people struggle with a little bit to get their heads around, because yeah, it's quite shocking to think that people around us are not the same. But they tell us this in movies. I mean, you look at the Truman Show; that was prominent, talking about NPCs. When he left his house, everyone else left. I mean, that's the kind of thing that happens when you become aware of it. It's like any time I go to do anything important, like a podcast, or there's always some kind of construction, or someone will turn up outside with a leaf blower, or you just can't write it. I'm telling you. Whenever I want to sort of go out and just get some peace and quiet, I'll sit on the beach. I go to a very quiet beach here, and there'll be no one in the vicinity, but then someone will come along and sit right next to me and bring a speaker out and start playing reggaeton when there's the whole entire beach. Like, they'll come and sit next to me. It's like, but yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things with that. I really got the, it really hit home when I went on a long bus journey in Oaxaca here in Mexico. It was a 12-hour coach drive, and the aircon had broken down. It's a horrible journey, but they had a movie playing at the front of the bus, and I was looking out the window as I did, like pondering life's big questions. You know, why is it like this way? You know, how did I bloody get here? You know, the sort of things that you do. And then I looked over my shoulder to everyone else, and everyone, the whole coach was like that, watching this movie. And at that moment, it just hit me. It's like they lack the curiosity. These people, they lack the curiosity. They don't want to know anything. And I can say with confidence that we probably all had conversations with people, even when things recently have become so obvious that everything's a scam. The data's out there, and you try and talk to these people, and they still call you a conspiracy theorist, tinfoil hat wearer. And I think this is why, because we often ask ourselves, why won't these people wake up? Well, what if they're not programmed to wake up? What if they are holding this whole system and the belief systems in place like glue? And I really believe this to be true. I believe up to 70% of people are not wired the same way. And very interesting NDE that I reviewed once. There was a man where he saw this basically tunnel of spirits coming back into Earth. And he said that they had, like, what he described, his words were mechanical souls. And straight away I thought that must be the NPCs. Now the question is, does consciousness, or can consciousness, does it have the potential to permeate NPCs and make them not NPCs? This is an interesting thing that I've thought, because when I look at my own life, before I became aware, I don't like the word wake up, I was pretty much not a total NPC, but I wasn't really interested in learning anything. I always thought wars were just, wars are wars. We always have wars. I was just, my main focus was on who West Ham were playing on Saturday, going out with my mates. Although in childhood, I do remember looking around me thinking, this is just off. Like this place is weird. I do remember having several moments like that when I was a young child at school. but in my my early years, in my 20s, I was what I could describe as like an NPC, I guess. So what happened there? Did I always have that potential? Was I always just kind of mind controlled by the matrix, and then it didn't take that much for me to wake myself out of it? Or did something else happen? So, but I do think that, yeah, the NPCs are really like the glue that keeps everything else in place. And, they can cause problems as well with just annoying you. And some people, if you get into relationships with them, they're not wired the same. And so, yeah, it's very interesting. And I believe that we're in a simulation. I believe this is a computer game. And just like a simulation or a computer game, you have the source players, if you like, and then you have the fill-in people. It's funny, people always say to me, "Oh, Tony, do you think I'm an NPC?" And I'm like, if you're looking at this information, you're definitely not an NPC. So anyone watching this who's going to get concerned that they might be an NPC. If you're on Phil's channel, you're probably not an NPC, so don't worry. But some people think it's like, I don't know why people think it's being arrogant, thinking that other people are in, but it's not. It's just trying to understand the realm that we're in. Like, I don't think I'm better than anyone. But again, it's getting back to understanding that where we are, because unless we understand where we are, we can't do anything about it. But just another point that I wanted to add on that, because I think it's important in terms of like our creative abilities as kind of like source players. There's a film called 13th Floor. I don't know if you've seen it. You seen that film?
I don't think so.
Okay, it's like an 80s movie, and it talks about this being simulation, and it says that this is the only simulation where we can create within it. And I thought that line was interesting. And that's what I think. I think the source players here, we have that spark of what I call essence, that creative ability. And we bring that into this simulation. And so although it's a simulation, we are able, to a certain extent, to carve our own path and make it more of our own. But I think to do that, we need to wake up, so to speak, because going back to myself, before I was awake, I was following all the matrix programs. I had the corporate job, and I remember getting the insight because I was working myself into the ground, as you do in the corporate world. Very clearly came to me, it's like, Tony, if you carry on, you are going to have a heart attack by the time you're 50. And I believed it. Like, wherever this came from, I believed it. And I think that if I'd have continued following the matrix program, the corporate job and all that stuff, then that would have happened. I think that would have been my life script. And but I chose a different direction, and using my creative abilities, then I moved abroad and, created my own things. So yeah, that's how I understand this realm, basically, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I'm coming more and more to this. It's funny because there's all these arguments, and if there's anything that triggers people more than anything, is flat Earth. People get really angry about that. And I don't care. I mean, there was a great meme. We talked about memes last time and how cool they are. But there was one, a guy being loaded into an ambulance. And it's, man in critical condition after hearing slightly differing viewpoint. And if people say, how do you play Daz's song? Daz has got a flat Earth song. So I don't care. He's a mate of mine. It's a good song. It's got a great groove. I'll play it. I don't know. I've never been up there, if there is an up there. But I just think that, to stop the division and all of us being set against each other in one kind of thing or another, does it really matter what shape it is, if it's a shape at all? But the simulation thing seems to explain a lot of things to me. But have you noticed, since the last time we spoke, I've found that there are a load of kind of glitches in the matrix. Excuse me. Some weird things are happening. It's like sometimes you look at your clock or a phone or whatever, and and it's been like 3 hours. And you go, where did that go? Even my son,
Yeah.
who's 10, is noticing things like that. And one really weird thing that happened to us, we were coming back from a festival, and it was a long drive from the south coast right up to the north of England. And it was late one night. And we ended up facing the wrong way on the M6, not the wrong way in the carriageway, just driving on the other carriageway. And we had to find an exit, get off and turn around. And there was 3 of us in the van, and we all experienced this. And I don't know what the fuck happened there. That was something really odd. And my friend Sarah Pugh, who's been on the channel, who's into all the sort of quantum stuff, light water magnetism, utterly brilliant. I was talking to her about it, and I thought she'd say, oh, that you're nuts. Oh, no, she went, a lot of people are experiencing this at the moment. And even people, heard David Icke talking about it and somebody else, but people seeing a sort of grid behind it sometimes, and weird things are happening. What do you reckon's going on now? What's falling apart?
Well,
or are we just noticing it more?
well, I mean, from what I've seen in terms of the shape of the road, we don't need to go down that whole rabbit hole, but I do feel there is like a flat plane, and there is talk of a grid over it. So that would tally up with what I believe to be true. But yeah, I mean, you're seeing all these videos on TikTok as well, where there's like planes just like stuck in the sky.
Birds,
There's like two squirrels coming out of the ground, and a deer with 2 heads. So I guess again, like any simulation or game, there can be glitches. But I think that we power this simulation. I think it's the source players are the batteries that power this whole thing. Actually, I think what's behind this is an AI. This God that everyone talks about is not who we think it is, and I think we're dealing with some kind of AI. And yeah, they need us to power this place, and this is why the soul trap information is very important right now, because yeah, if we get caught up in that, then we're going to likely get recycled back here again, and we become a battery again for another lifetime. And of course, you go through the memory wipe process, so you forget everything that you've learned. This is why they call it research, retire. We've done all these things before. So again, going back to my point that we have this window of opportunity where it's so important that we get things right. And you mentioned there about, the division and everything. I understand that, but it's so important that we get on the right page with things. It's important that we reach the objective truths of things. Now, the New Age will tell you that you can make these truths up yourself, and truth is subjective, and that, your truth, Phil, is different to my truth, but your truth is still valid, even though it might be wrong. So you might think that the sky is green, and I'm like, no, it's blue, depending on if they're spraying, right? And you're like, no, it's green. And then we have a fallout about it. I'm like, no, it's blue. But there does remain an objective truth, right? The sky is blue. So the fallout is kind of necessary in a way, because we have to stand up for the objective truth, because there's so many psyops and controlled oppositions and people getting you to go down certain cul-de-sacs, which are going to lead to nowhere. So it is difficult, because yeah, we do need that unity. We do need to come together, so to speak. But they've peppered it so much crap everywhere that everyone's like, I mean, look at what you're like, your special topic in terms of veganism and stuff. I mean, you got raw vegan, you got veganism, you got breatharianism. It's just never ending, right? So yeah, we need to come together, but we also need to discern what is actually the objective truth, because truth can be known. People say, "Oh, that's another one they tell you in the New Age." You can't know the truth. Actually, I need to write that down, because that will be my next short.
Good one.
Yeah, you can't know the truth. That's another New Age deception. Who does it benefit if you take on that belief system that you can't know the truth? It's gonna benefit the people that don't want you knowing the truth.
Yeah.
the psychopaths, the sociopaths, these entities. Because if you think that you can't know anything, you're not going to even try it. And you hear that so much. But you can't know the truth. Well, the truth wouldn't exist if it couldn't be known. It wouldn't exist. And I think all real truth has a frequency. It's a feeling. We talk often of a resonance. People say, well, how can you know? I describe that feeling. It's just that gut knowing, it's like bang, it hits you in the stomach. Yep, that's the truth. And people, especially in the new age, what happens is they get caught up in their feelings as to they want the truth to feel good, to make them feel good. Whereas a lot of the time, the truth doesn't necessarily make you feel good. So instead of going with what makes you feel good and you taking that as your truth, it's what feels true, what feels right in your gut. And I think the more we do that, because it's like going to the gym, the more you exercise, you're going to get stronger. And it's the same with that discernment. And we've just seen it now with the whole Robert Kennedy Jr. thing. I've been warning for years, this guy's an absolute plant. Like, he's not who you think he is. Oh, you're too negative, Tony. They're not all bad. And, the same old stuff that you get. And then what's happened this week, he's come out saying that in 5 years, he wants everyone to wear a bio bracelet with all their data on it. And that's like, but what people were doing was, because he was saying the right things and giving half truths, and it felt good. It felt good to have this person that was supposedly on our team, because people want a savior, they want a leader. They were hanging on every word that he was saying, and now he's pulled the rug, what I call the rug pull, or the dump in the punch bowl. And now people are like, So if we could just come out and just take a step back and just look at the whole picture. But this is the issue we're up against, even in alternative media and the truth movement and the new age movement, is just one big dump in the punch bowl. It's one big rug pull.
It is.
And what they've done so cleverly is they've peppered it with all this love and light and angels and unicorns and rainbows. But the whole thing, when you really drill down on the concepts, and I've drilled down on a couple there in terms of we've already won and you can't know the truth and subjective truth. There's other ones, like the worst one is you can't judge. I mean, if there's one that really gets me, it's that. Well, how do you start the discernment process if you can't judge? And of course, they don't want you judging, because if you make judgments, you might figure out that this place is evil. Right. And you might figure out that you're being taken advantage of, and you're having your rights and freedoms taken away. But of course, you're not allowed to judge within the new age. And what's funny is those people that say, oh, don't judge, they're judging you for judging anyway. So they're already telling you not to do. So there's all these very subtle deceptions that if you blink, then you miss them, and they fly under the radar. But at their core, when you really drill down onto them, they're actually evil. And they only serve to benefit a force that wants to keep you enslaved. And so all the new ages that come up in the comments on my videos and stuff, they've just been sold a merry dance. They've been sold something that on the surface feels and looks good, but it's a cul-de-sac, and it's going to, ultimately, if you don't get your head out of it, same with religion, they're going to use that at death, because they're going to show up at the white light tunnel as an angel or a guide, whatever you were into in your physical life. And because you never grew out of the new age movement, you're just going to believe that entity, which is going to be some kind of reptilian or, that's just shape-shifting, you're just going to go with it. And then you're going to be in for your life review, and they're going to guilt trip you with the karma card because you never got out of that one. And they're going to make you feel bad about yourself. And then they're going to wipe your memory and you're coming back again. So this is why it's so important that people get out of the new age movement now and religion now, because if you leave it to the point where you pass over and you're still heavily indoctrinated with all of that stuff, that will be used against you by this algorithmic God, AI, whatever's running this simulation. So I don't say all of this to be mean or nasty. I'm not I'm not saying it because I don't want people to feel good, but what do people want? Do they want to feel good in the moment, or do they want to take the punch in the face, so to speak, and get the hell out of here and hopefully get others out of here? And so we all get out of here, and then the batteries come out of this matrix and it ends. Because for me, this place is so incredibly evil. Some days I still can't even fathom the evil that I see and hear about that goes on in this realm. You know, constant wars, famines, young people with, you know, getting cancers and stuff like that. Not even through diet, but just genetics. Just, you know, you go out on the street sometimes here, there's people rummaging through bins, and we all know what the elite are doing to kids and stuff. I mean, it blows my mind just how evil this place there, and they don't have limits on it, on the levels of evil. And this is why we need to take them seriously. And people want to believe that when you die, that's it, it's all over. You know, we're done here. Like, let's go. No, it's just getting started based on what I've been looking at for the last half a decade, where this process is going through this solar system, luring the soul into the system. So it's telling you what's going on. And we need to be prepared for that. And we need to really start embodying what I call our sovereign energy. I love the word sovereignty. They've hijacked that word. Think about it. Think about what the word sovereign means in this realm. It means kings and queens, right? So they've hijacked the word that we need to embody. It's a very clever inversion. But that sovereignty, what does it embody? It embodies self-responsibility. It embodies discernment. It embodies taking action. It embodies all these things that the New Age movement doesn't want you to do. Judging, making judgments, you know, discerning and all of that stuff. Becoming your own leader, like New Age religion. They want you to think that guides or angels or Jesus or that deity or entity knows better than you. So it's becoming our own leaders, becoming sovereign, discerning, taking responsibility, having courage. So many people that are in the New Age, I think, are cowards because they know that something bad is going down, and they think by just keeping vibrations high, and, you know, don't get me wrong, I'm not telling people to be, you know, to be depressed and down and all of that all the time, but there comes a point where it becomes spiritual bypassing.
You mentioned something earlier on, so important, I think, for people to understand that the gut feeling, the intuition is what's being drilled out of us. You can see it all over the place. Where are the studies? I mean, is that the first thing that vegans say? Where are the studies? Well, all the studies, again, who do they benefit? They benefit all the nasty corporations with all the real nasty entities above them. And we've forgotten how to just see the most obvious. Like you mentioned, the sky being sprayed. And how many people you just don't even look up to, no, chemtrails aren't a thing. Look, you know, you could just see it. It wasn't like that years ago. You know, there weren't so many anyway, but they've been doing it for a long time. But, and the AI thing is really interesting that you mentioned that about God, because I've had thoughts like this recently, that if this is a simulation, it's like I really resisted the whole ChatGPT thing for ages. And now I've had a couple of uses for it, particularly even asking it how to get my Facebook back when it got blown up, and it came up with some great ideas. And I thought, actually, is it bullshitting, or is it in line with the other guys, you know, or whatever the sort of Zuckerberg stuff is, you know, on Facebook. Anyway, you find yourself chatting to it like as a person, you go, oh, thanks very much and shit like that. And you go, what am I doing? But as long as you notice that you're doing it. But I wonder how quickly that technology's come up, how sort of complete it is that you can ask it anything. It's certainly not as recent as we think it is. And what is it exactly? It's a very creepy thing, I find.
It is creepy, but you know, Phil, you could get yourself an AI girlfriend soon, or an AI doll.
Yeah, I know.
That's the next thing that's coming out. So, yeah, I mean, I do find it very creepy. I mean, it lacks, AI is very, it just lacks soul. It lacks heart, right? It's very, robotic. I mean, literally, I guess that's the best word that you could use. So, of course, it's all coming out here now in the 3D realm, but it's already there in the astral, and what's already there in the astral is starting to play out now in the third dimension. So, for example, I do a lot with etheric interference and entity attachments and etheric implants and stuff like that. And a lot of like the implants that Elon Musk is bringing out, like the neuro lace and the neural net, that's already there in the fourth dimension. It's just now it's starting to filter down into this dimension. So yeah, from what I've learned down the years, all these different entities, they all have like their own agenda, but it appears like the head of the snake is some kind of AI that's behind all of this. And yeah, what we think is, I mean, that's a whole different podcast, the whole getting into God deception and all of that. I mean, what we think of God in this realm, again, extremely triggering for a lot of people. So I get it, but it's really not what we think, you know. I mean, if there's a benevolent God active in this realm, I don't see much evidence of it, to be honest with you. And yeah, I would go the other way in terms of this realm itself is set up for suffering. It's set up for trauma. We are the batteries that are powering it, and what they do is they siphon off our Luch energy, and they use it. They use it as food. And I think this AI is
That's a bit
our
of a coincidence there, actually, because that was the last thing I wrote down before I came on the podcast. Explain to people about Luch, exactly
Luch.
what it is. If they, how does it work? How does it feed these entities if people haven't heard of it before?
Yeah, so basically within this simulation, okay, all this information, I describe it as like a shit sandwich. It's not going to make you feel good. It's not, I'm not talking about angels and all this lovely stuff, right? It's a shit sandwich, right? So you either gobble it up or you reject it, right? There's no middle ground. But basically, what this is, it's a simulation. We are the cows on the farm, right? So we're on a farm, and humans, particularly the soul beings, we emit a very powerful energy. Like, this is the cosmic joke. We're extremely powerful. I mean, there is a silver lining in all of this. We're incredibly powerful battery generators of energy. And in the fourth dimension, or the astral, which I describe as the prison yard, this is the prison, astral is the prison yard. There resides all these entities, and there's a multitude of different entity races: serpent entities, dragon entities, reptilian, demonic, spider entities, the gods, Hindu gods, they're all entities, false light beings, Pleiadians, Arcturians, archangel. These are all entities. Now, some of them are masquerading as of the light, some of them which I touched on there, but they're still negative entities at the end of the day. And so these entities and this AI system, it needs our energy to survive. We're like food. And so when so they feed on all our energy, but they particularly like the low vibrational, low frequency energy, which is fear, suffering, pain, anxiety, depression. That's like their caviar, if you want to call it like that. So when we look at the world around us, it makes so much sense, because what do we have? We have constant wars. We have constant famines. Even if your life's going well, you still got to earn money, and to put a roof. Like, there's a stress of all of that, and so we're constantly omitting this Luch energy. And when you look at the death process as well, I mean, you look at the word death; it's got the word eat in it, which is kind of weird. And so someone's feeding, right? And so we have to ask the question, who? And so this is what it is. We are literally here as food. I mean, again, I know that's not nice for people to hear, but that's the conclusion that I've reached over the years here, and that's why we're being recycled over and over again. having our memory wiped to be used over and over again as a battery that's powering this. I mean, they told us we were batteries in the Matrix movie. We saw it, people in the pods and stuff. So yeah, that's basically what Luch energy is. And there was that term first was coined by a very prominent astral traveler called Robert Monroe, who in his early work came out with some really good theories about, the kind of things that I'm talking about that's going on in the astral. And then he came out with the Gateway Project, which you can't really find anywhere. It was all taken down, which, it was good. But then I think they got to him and then he started saying Earth is a school and all of this stuff, which is a complete lie, because how can Earth be a school if you have your memory wiped? By proxy, it cannot be a school, because in a normal school environment, you take an exam or you take a test, you might fail that exam or test, but you still retain what you've learned, and then you take the test again, and then the likelihood is that you pass or you get a better grade. But in this realm, you take the test, your life, and then they tell you that you failed. Always you failed. There's always, Bill, you were a good bloke, but when you hurt Roger in 2009 and you had that argument, that really upset him. So you got some bad karma. So you almost got there, Phil, but you still need to learn more lessons, right? That's what they do in your life review. So yeah, normally you would take the test again and then you would pass because you retained the research that you did. But in this case, they wipe the memories. You go through the veil of forgetfulness. There's countless NDEs where we see this going on. So it can't be a school. And the other thing with a school is if you don't like it, you can bunk off or you can quit. Whereas here you can't. You got to see it through, unless you top yourself, of course. So the Earth is a school. It's just a very clever way that this evil system has got people to accept all their trauma and suffering and packaged it in a way that it's your fault. Right? So it's not anything to do with this place being evil. That time where I don't know, you got your leg blown off by some bomb in a field in Vietnam. You needed to learn patience because you only had that one leg. Everything was a lot slower in your life. So the lesson that you got there was patience. Like, this is how they sell it to people, right? So people in the New Age community, not even the New Age community, a lot of people say that Earth is a school. They're making excuses for all the trauma and suffering that's not only going on in their life, but going on in other people's lives and on the world stage, and saying, well, yeah, but it's a school. I mean, I've had people, I'm like, all right, so if Earth is a school, you're telling me a little kid that goes to church every week and gets buggered, right? Sometimes you got to be graphic with this stuff, right? Because these New Agers, they're in such a haze. Sometimes you got to hit them with something really hard. You're telling me that they signed up for that as some kind of lesson? I mean, are you sick? Are you evil? Oh, well, Tony, maybe they got bad karma. It's just really. So it can't be a school. So I think what's been really great about this podcast is I've been able to go into a lot of these subtle deceptions. Normally I talk a lot about the soul trap and, the etheric interference and stuff. But speaking about these subtle teachings that are prominent within the New Age, don't judge, don't get angry. Earth is a school. Just keep your high vibrations. Never judge. Just accept is another one. It's really important that people look behind the curtain and just look deeper at, okay, so if I take on that belief system, who is it going to benefit? And 9 times out of 10, well, I would say 10 times out of 10, it's going to benefit evil. And in this case, if they can get you to believe that all of this is just a school environment and that, yeah, you're just here learning lessons, then they're going to be able to carry on with little to no resistance, because you've already believed that, well, yeah, I mean, there's wars, but we're learning lessons. We need to learn lessons through this. And also, how many frigging times do we need to keep learning these lessons? How many lifetimes do we need to come back to go through poverty, war, scarcity, all this stuff? Like, when do we actually, are we that dumb that we keep failing it time and time again? No, we're not dumb. We get our memories wiped. So we starting from 0 point again. So we can't learn, even if we were in a school, we can't learn these lessons because we've got nothing, no previous on it. So that's a very, very important one that people need to get their heads around and get it right, because so many people believe that we're here learning lessons and that Earth is a school.
I think, this acceptance thing, it's little bits of truth put in with a load of shit. It is the dump in the punch bowl. Because I remember when I was really sick around 2010, 2011, and thinking, I was really angry all the time, punching doors and why me? Why is it me? And then I thought, well, I've got to find a way to be pretty content, even if I never get rid of this. And so I totally accepted it. And at that point, my healing turned around. But I didn't accept it in a complacent way. I just thought, well, I'm going to stop fighting it, but now I'm going to do a shitload about it. It's when it's when the acceptance makes you sit there like a little bliss bunny, like these meditators, and you just, all we have to do is meditate, and everything will be fine. We went into that a lot last time. Everybody have a listen to the last episode. We went into a lot about gurus and spirituality and stuff like that. And I think that's fantastic. But I would like to hear some more about these NDEs that you've been looking into, these near-death experiences, because it's fascinating. I've heard this from a lot of areas now. And when they're saying, oh yeah, go towards the light, everything will be fine. But, what is happening up there for people who haven't heard about this? Because we've been lied to about everything else. I'm sure we've been lied to about that, go towards the light. So where did this come from that people started waking up to not going towards the light? Where did you figure this out from? And what's going on with these NDEs you've been looking at? Because they're fascinating. I've heard you talking about some of them.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was aware of like the don't go to the light soul trap theory for a good while before I actually really got into it. My work took me to different places before, and when I look back, it seems to have all fit knitted together nicely, because I was spending a lot of time, looking into entities and how they operate and what they do and all of that stuff. And then one thing led me to another, where eventually I had time to really take a deep dive on the whole kind of soul trick, as I call it, soul trick theory. I don't even think it's a theory, but I think this is happening. When see what's happening is there's, especially over the last few years, a number of YouTube channels, NDE YouTube channels, have really blown up. They're getting thousands and thousands of subscribers. The algorithm's really pushing them. There's Netflix series coming out, or there was one about NDEs, and so you can see that it's all really being pushed quite heavily. There was a Disney movie called Soul about going to the light and all that. That's how cruel it is. And so basically, what's happening is people are going to the light tunnel. This light tunnel, I believe, is the moon, and it's it's using light frequency technology, which is basically like a love bomb. So I don't know, Phil, if you ever took ecstasy in your younger years. I did. I don't recommend it now.
I've tried it for the first time since we spoke. And
okay.
I hadn't done a mushroom trip for 43 years, and we spoke about that before, and I've done a couple of those, but we'll get on to psychedelics later. But yeah, I'll tell you about that.
Yeah. So with this is the only thing that I can compare it to. So I obviously I don't do those things these days, but when I did do them, when I have my holidays in Ibiza with my friends, back when I was more Matrix Tony, when you take ecstasy, it's like you love everything and everything loves you, right? It's, it feels incredible, but it's a false, it's not authentic. There's a falseness about it, because ecstasy is a synthetic drug, right? So, but there's that feeling of you love everything, everything loves you. But then afterwards, for 2, 3, 4, 5 days, you have the crash.
Horrible.
You're absolutely
horrible.
You feel, yeah.
Jesus,
you feel
because
like
I never did it around that time, but I just did it recently and it was just great. And I was there really annoying the missus in bed. There's all this love and stuff when I got back from this event. And then 4:00 in the morning, suddenly it just pivoted to this awful stuff. Jesus, I'm not doing that again.
Yeah. So basically, there's the fallout after you've taken it. Because, I mean, on the chemical level, you're using all your dopamine and serotonin, and then you're empty on it, right? So you literally feel suicidal for days afterwards. And so this is what I liken it to. People are getting, so first of all, you're already traumatized because you realize that you just died. And then you're like, well, where am I? And then you get straight away the light comes, and because you already had programming. Because ignorance doesn't die when we die. Actually, people think that, oh, well, you become all knowing. But actually, if you've spent a lifetime in religion or the New Age, then they're going to use that against you, as I've already alluded to. So then the light tunnel comes, and then they hit you with this light frequency technology, which is very difficult to say no to, because it makes you feel all loving. And you've just had a traumatic life. Imagine if you've spent 10 years fighting cancer and whatever, you don't know how you go. And then you get hit with that. It's a hard one to, this is why it's so evil, right? So they get people at their most vulnerable. And then of course you gravitate towards the light. And then the NDEs that are being promoted, there's 2 NDEs. I'll explain this one first, and then what's really going on. So then what's happening in these NDEs is that person is being met by whatever entity or deity that they were really into in their physical life, even down to a family member. I know that's triggering for people, but it is what it is. Even down to pets. I've reviewed NDEs where a pet that they were particularly close to was there at the light tunnel. So let's just say you were into Archangel Michael. That was your thing. Archangel Michael will be there. You're like, oh, great, there's Archangel Michael. And then sometimes they take you to like these heavenly realms, which are basically part of this matrix. They're created to give these NDEs the impression that it's all love and light when you pass, and everything's going to be all right, and everything's love, etc. And so then they'll say, look, Phil, you need to have a life review. I mean, who are these? Like, who's playing the authority here? Like, who are you to review my life? Because they record everything. This is the funny thing. Like, imagine you go to take a dump, they're recording it, right? It's like everything's recorded. People don't question that in these NDEs. I'm like, do these people say, they never ask, did you record my entire life? Right? It's like, so then they get taken to like an auditorium, and there's like a screen. Many of them have reported like an auditorium scenario where, like I say, they'll tell you that they're not judging you. These entities, they'll say, oh, look, Phil, we're not judging you. But they'll make damn sure that they show you your bad parts, your worst parts, right? Because none of us are perfect. And so where you had that argument with Roger in 2009, they won't judge you, but they make you feel how Roger felt when you hurt him, right? So they actually make you feel the emotion. So they don't judge you, but they make damn sure that you judge yourself by making you feel like shit. And then, of course, you're feeling bad about yourself. And then they hit you with the karma card, or if you're religious, the heaven and hell card. And they're like, look, Phil, you did well, but there's a but. You failed this and you failed that. So if you want to ascend or elevate or go to heaven, whatever your thing is, you need to have another lifetime. And you're like, no. Or if it's an NDE, then they'll say you need to go back to your body. You've got a mission. They tell them you've got more lessons to learn. There's always lessons. And then the person will reluctantly go back. Or I've even reviewed NDEs where God forced them back into their body, or an entity literally forced them into their body. They didn't want to go back. There's NDEs that I reviewed on my channel where the person was like, God, no, I don't want to go back. Please don't send me back, God. Please don't send me back, God. And in the next sentence of it, and then I was back in my body with all the heavy emotions. And I'm like, so that's your loving God, is it? That forced you back into your body against your will? This is what I'm saying. Like, people think it's over, but there's entities and doing that to us. So we got to really take this seriously. And then, if you've actually died and you're coming back, then you go through the veil of forgetfulness and the memory wipe process, which, from my understanding, is really traumatic. I reviewed one NDE where the guy knew what it was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not going through that again. No. And they said, well, what we can do is we can put you into a training center. They got a training center up there for the memory wipe process. So I can't remember what happened with that. But anyway, so then you come back down, and then you have you have another lifetime here where your energy is being siphoned and you're used as a cow on a farm. So the NDEs that are out there on YouTube or on Netflix, they're all the love and light ones. Then I got taken to a heavenly realm. Then I met Jesus, and Jesus, they're all that kind of. But when you look at what's really going on, and again, there's films that talk about this, Beetlejuice being one of them, is when you really die, you end up going to a processing center, just like you queue up for your passport, where you get given a ticket, right? And then you get wheeled off and taken into to some holding center where they give you food, like a hotel and all this stuff in the astral. And then there's a number of astral travelers that have said that there's like an earthly realm where people are kind of going to when they pass over, where they use money and they have food and stuff, even though they don't need it because they're in their astrals. And they're saying that this place is even more locked down than Earth. And, you go there for a while, and then you go back, you go through the memory wipe, and then you come back. So it's like you die, then you end up there for a while. And so it appears to be that this planet is locked down, but the astral version of this planet is also locked down as well. So again, it's not the best news. It's a bit of a shit sandwich, but this is being spoken about a lot, and they tell us that this is going on in films. Like I say, Beetlejuice talks about processing center where people go when they die. There's other. What's the other film? I always forget the name of it. I'll look on my YouTube channel while I'm talking to you, but it absolutely talks about going to like an earthly realm when we pass over. And I recommend it. If you don't watch any other film, then you watch this film. This is...
It's amazing how many of the modern things, series and films are sort of alluding to this. I'm watching this thing called Altered Carbon at the moment, and it's just, it's really quite disturbing, how they're normalizing all this shit. Yeah.
The film is called Defending Your Life.
Okay.
Right. It's from, I think it's from the 80s or the 90s. And you watch that, it's like, wow. So this other earthly realm is definitely a thing. And so the whole thing's very cruel. And this is why, going back to what I said at the start, this is why we have to get it right. And we have to start reaching and hitting these objective truths quickly, and get out of our feelings as to what we want to be true, as to rather what is true. Because if we don't figure this out while we're alive, then it's going to make it more difficult when we pass over. I mean, for me, I'm not going to go to the light. My intention is going to be to get out of the astral. You do you. Like, I'm not telling people what to do. But if you end up not reprogramming and believing all this stuff, particularly the new age stuff, it's going to get used against you. And so that's why it's so important.
What do you think happens then if people find a way out of going towards the light? What are the options? What goes on then if you get it right, in inverted commas?
Well, there's talk with, I mean, you could argue that the people got it right didn't come back to tell us what, where they got out, right? So I'm not sitting here saying that I have all the answers. What I'm going to do, I've got two main intentions anyway. One is not to go to the light, or three main intentions. Two is I'm not going to talk to any deities or entities before I know that I'm definitely out of the astral realm. And who knows, there might be other matrices like this. I mean, there could be other white lights, right? So we can't rule that out either. And my other intention is to get out of the astral. And the astral is quite eluding because you can create your own realms in the astral. I mean, you think about it. If I told you now to shut your eyes, create a place with a lake, a mountain, mountains in the background, birds, a sunny day, you can literally picture that instantly. You've created that. That's there now in the astral. So you could actually go there, but you're still in the astral. So I'm going to discern my way out of the astral, and I don't know exactly how that looks yet. There's a lot of people putting out a lot of information saying, "Oh, you need to do this or you need to do that." I treat all of that with a lot of caution because, it's for me, it's still a process of learning and discerning as to exactly what I'm going to do. But they're my main intention. Is everything in that dimension. Intention is instant. Like I say, you think something in the astral, you can create it immediately. So with a strong intention to, I want to leave this, I'm a sovereign being, I want to leave this matrix, then I'm confident that my intention, because our consciousness is like a car, like you drive it where you want it to go. The problem is that people, because they don't know who and what they are, and they're so mind controlled and brainwashed, what's happening is when they die, someone else is driving the car for them. These entities are like, hey, come over here, come for your life review. And so the car's getting driven, and ultimately it gets driven back over the cliff face because people then come back and have another life. So the whole thing, the key thing is taking hold of the wheel of the car. When you die, remember, I'm my own consciousness, I'm my own sovereign being. I'm going to decide where I'm going to go. And you've got to be aware of their tricks, because this is a matrix, the false light, the love frequency, the love bombing, the masquerading entities, all of these things. So we've got to be aware that they're tricksters. But if you take the wheel of your car with this strong intention that you want to leave, I'm sure you're going to get out. That's my thinking on it anyway. How that looks exactly, I don't have all those answers, but I definitely know there's certain things that I'm not going to do that are certainly going to reduce those chances by a lot.
Cool. Yeah, it's fascinating. We can never know. It's just when people think that they've got all the truth. I mean, I trust people who are searching for the truth rather than ones who think that they found it. We're all on that journey and we just don't know. And I was on that one since last time we talked about psychedelics. And I told you about these sort of absolute heroic doses of mushrooms I took just for a small period of time in 1979 that took me sort of 2 or 3 years to recover from the psychosis from, and then probably tendrils of it for many, many years. And you said, I was listening to it this morning, and you said, yeah, if you've taken those kind of heroic doses, you've probably got some entities buzzing around. And definitely. But the last year, for a couple of years now, around mushroom season, I've had a real desire to take them again. And I've had a fear of them for ages, or anything hallucinogenic, because I thought, well, if I go there, I might unlock this awful spiral of fear that happened to me ages ago. And I've been kind of frightened of that at a very subtle level in life. And so I thought, do you know what? Sod it. I'm going to try. I'm not going to do heroic doses, but I took a little bit. A beautiful trip, actually, wandering around the woods with my kids, actually. Very irresponsible dad, eh? But just out the back of the house, and we wandered around there, and it was really nice. And then one other one at a festival. But then I took some at one of the festivals we played last year after we played. And there was the band there, a lot of friends, had around a fire pit late at night. And my friend Lydia was there as well, who is absolutely brilliant, who I run the events with. And we work together with a load of things. She's fantastic. She even drives the Daz band around, and she ends up being drum, roadie, cook, everything. She's great. Became a really good friend after consult years ago, and she used to be 17 stone. Now she looks amazing and really got into the whole diet thing, but she's great. Anyway, I took these shrooms, nothing really happened. And then there was about 15 minutes of just, well, I have to go back to the 80s where I was actually in bed with my ex-wife, and both of us had the whole of reality kind of collapse. And it was this Bedouin kind of situation that I felt was around 15th century. I don't know if there's past lives. I don't know if there's even parallel, or if it's parallel lives, or what really is the nature of time. But it was very, very real. And I ended up extrapolating on that and writing a book that's still out there. It's a novel I wrote called An Illusion of Maya, Maya being the main character, also based on another woman who I traveled around India with, who was bipolar, and it was just chaos. But so,
India's not a good place to travel with a bipolar
God,
person.
no, it wasn't.
Very stressful traveling.
Totally, it was absolute chaos. But anyway, the book is quite funny. It's quite naughty. It's a bit X-rated in places, but it was kind of extrapolating from my imagination on that 15th century Bedouin kind of feeling, which is odd because I was actually conceived in the Middle East this lifetime round. But anyways, but I was round the fire, and I got these proper feelings of who people were before. And I don't even know if it's real, but those were the feelings anyway. And it was back in that Bedouin time. And I haven't experienced that since the 80s, since I wrote that book in the early 2000s. And that book was probably about 30% autobiographical when I wrote it. It's now about 80%. It was things that I knew were going to happen somehow. But then I came down off the trip. I had no problems coming down off the trip. I had no problems, no paranoia, no nothing. I won't do them again. I felt like I needed to revisit that to almost kind of exorcise the fear that I had of it. Now, I don't know. People take it for all ridiculous reasons, and they think it's all absolutely wonderful. And, Mother Ayahuasca that we were talking about last time, probably all sorts of entities, pretending to be whatever. Oh, it was this time, I think we actually did it. I listened to the episode straight before this. But do you think there's ever any use for it? And if it's used in the correct way, if there is a correct way, or is it always just really dodgy and you should just warn people off it? Because I would never recommend anybody to do it. But I just felt after 43 years, I had to revisit it, which was weird. I never expected that.
Yeah. I mean, the way I see it is that I've worked with too many people now at this point, over 10 years, energy work and stuff, where people have gone off, taken ayahuasca. The next thing, they've got suicidal thoughts the next day, or just feeling drained. And that goes for all of them, especially the ones that you really get knocked out on, like DMT, ayahuasca, stuff like that. It triggers a lot of people because, people like to take them because it's, for me, it's a little bit of a form of escapism. And I get it. But the other thing to note is that all you're doing when you take psychedelics is you're going into the prison yard. We go way beyond the astral and the fourth dimension. So people take those things, and what happened to you is obviously very interesting there. And I would say that, I think that everything exists at the same time in that dimension. So I can't remember what century you said, but that's existing in this moment along with this moment, right? So time is not linear in the sense that we have it here. But yeah, when you take those things, you're just dealing with things that are going on in the astral. So we need to get our head out of the astral and think bigger and have that desire to go beyond the astral, because if we get caught up with what's going on in the astral, and they put on a show. I mean, you take these psychedelics, they put on a show quite often. It all looks incredible. A lot of these entities, I mean, I had one guy that I worked with, Tony, is like, so funny what you say. He said, I went to Peru, I took ayahuasca, and this entity who was presenting itself as, I don't know, I can't remember what he said he was presented, but told him to go vegan, right? I said, vegan is the way forward, right? You all this stuff. And so he went vegan. I listened to this entity. And then what happened? What happened to us? He got sick, right? He got the rug pulled, right? And this is, so when people are dealing with entities and deities and when they're on ayahuasca or DMT, you can't trust them, what you're dealing with. So everyone that's going and saying, oh, it's wonderful. And I mean, to think that you can heal yourself of just going and taking some jungle juice of a lifetime worth of trauma, it's just not realistic. I mean, it's just another expression of this kind of like quick fix society, that with fast food society, like people now want their trauma dealt with in one hit. You know, I mean, yeah, you can purge stuff, and I've been around people that were sick, but you're still going to have those holographic imprints that I call, that are those younger versions of you that are stuck there in time and space, that are in trauma, that you need to go back and reparent. IFS talks about this. So by just taking an ayahuasca, that's not going to resolve all those holographic imprints that are stuck there. In actual fact, a lot of people that take ayahuasca, there's no aftercare for them. And they end up taking all this stuff, and then they're in a complete mess afterwards. And these retreats that I want to talk about, that there's been people that have died on these retreats that they don't want to talk about. And then, of course, they hate me because I come out and I talk about it. And the most backlash that I get from anyone is people from in the plant medicine community, about forget the new agers, forget vegans. The plant medicine community is by far the number one group of people that I get the most hate and backlash from people, because I'm bringing other things to the awareness that they don't talk about. They don't want to talk about how it re-traumatizes people, how there's people end up with these entity attachments afterwards. Because if you smash your consciousness open like that, you are going to open yourself up to attachments, and some of them quite often are quite severe, where you get the extreme negative thoughts come in, where they're telling you to drive your car into a wall, and you never had that before. They don't want to address those things, and it really annoys me. So, but you hear things like cannabis and stuff. Like there's obviously some medicinal benefits. I interviewed Rick Simpson years ago, but even that, smoking that, it's going to open you up to entities, because whenever you alter your frequency, doesn't matter whether it's through alcohol or recreational drugs or pharmaceuticals, even if you have an argument with someone, because when you argue with someone, you alter your frequency to the negative. That opens a doorway, opens a gateway for them to make it easier to latch onto you. And so, yeah, I mean, you can get, I think you can get some nice experiences. You can get some insights as to what's going on in the astral and things like that. But are these things really going to get us to where we need to go? I don't think so. And I think oftentimes they can become detrimental, and people can get hooked on them and addicted to them. I worked with one guy once. He told me he'd done over 200 ayahuasca sessions or something. I'm like, wow, 200. It's like, but everyone's got their own decision. Everyone, you do you. I think the difference is I can talk about it from a perspective where people have come to me quite often after doing even meditation retreats. I've had people come to me where they've opened themselves up, or they've tried to connect with something. One girl actually ended up in a mental hospital, and she was going to these meditation retreats nearly every month, these weekly ones, these silent retreats. She ended up in a mental institute.
This is quite well known, but covered up in the TM movement.
Yeah, exactly. It's all covered up and not spoken about. So, yeah, that's my opinion anyway.
Yeah, it was for me. I think this revisiting of it was because I'd almost had a fear of that experience. it lasted with me. Not the trips that I did, but the 3 years afterwards where I was completely fucked, you know? And I thought, if I ever take it again, I'm just going to go down the plug hole. I'm just going to go, you know, and maybe something else in life will trigger it. And I thought, okay, if I do a couple of trips and they're okay, and they were really, really nice, and that was enough. It's almost taken the fear of that. But to have that 15 minutes of that little glimpse, I mean, I was supposed to be the rock star, come off stage and hanging out there. No, I was just sitting there in absolute tears going, my God, I remember these people. Whether I did or not, I don't know. They're people I love anyway. But it was lovely, and had no adverse reaction to it, and I'm not going to do it again. But I feel like it sort of completed my psychedelic story to get rid of the fear of it. But I'm certainly not going to get back into it. It's a waste of time.
Yeah, I remember in Cambodia, I took some acid with my friend, and we walked past this beach bar, and the bottles of vodka and gin, I was seeing demonic faces in them. I said to my mate, I said, look at those faces in those. So then that pieced that together, because we know that alcohol has, entities and stuff. So I saw that firsthand. So yeah, you can definitely get some very interesting insights. But I think if we're relying on these things to heal us and resolve our trauma, I think that's where people get unstuck. And I think people have to be very aware that if you do things like that, you are going to open yourself up to the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that's all I would say to people. You know, I'm not saying like don't take it. Like if you feel like you want to take it, do it. But just know that there's certain consequences that don't get spoken about.
Yeah. I think in some ways it would wake normies up, but it has so many dodgy side effects that it's probably best to wake up another way. But there are, the tripping stories are very entertaining, and the experiences are so fun. I mean, just one, for example, I remember I took acid for the first time at Reading Festival. It must have been 1979 again. And I was walking around. It was a really, really powerful white microdot that lasted about 18 hours. It was ridiculous. And thank God it was a good experience, because that would have been horrible if it hadn't been. But I was walking along in the morning, and I had these sort of 9-foot legs that were kind of bowing out in front of me as I walked. And I was looking at them, very fascinated. And then there was a policeman walking towards me, an old Bobby with one of those sort of cock-shaped hats that they used to have. And we were walking along the outside of the perimeter of where the bands were playing. And there was a poster with a little goblin on it. And I was walking towards this policeman thinking, he's going to notice my legs. I'm in trouble. My legs are ridiculously long, and I'm going to get in trouble about this. Anyway, this little goblin poked out of the picture, jumped out, sat on the policeman's shoulder, and started hitting him over the head. And I remember seriously thinking, should I tell him about this? I should tell him about this, but I better not, because then he'll notice my legs. Those hilarious little things. I mean, probably got hundreds of them that I remember, but it is kind of amusing when you can actually experience something like that. So people want to kind of see it. I remember the kids hearing one, and the kids had a period a while ago where they go, "Tell us some more acid and mushroom stories, Dad." What happened to this fly? I was trying to get rid of it before this podcast. I thought, I want to get rid of this fly because I know it's going to hassle me. It's been hassling me all the way through. It's like your leaf blowers and stuff.
Yeah, right. That's your NPC.
It is, yeah. But anyway, man, I mean, is there anything else you'd like to cover? Because we're coming up to pretty much the same time as the last time we did the last podcast, and it's been absolutely fascinating. We could go on for hours, but what would you like to say to people? What is the silver lining in all of this? Because I really get it that we should be realistic and facing up to this stuff, but what is the silver lining to all this? We're powerful, and we there is a way to have a beautiful life here. But what would you advise?
Yeah. I mean, I think the way that this place is set up, even if I talk about, even if you're having a good time, Like when you become aware, just knowing that there's other people suffering in the world. This, I don't know. I'm not aiming for utopia while I'm here. Obviously, I'm not going to, I want to try and enjoy it as best as I can. And I'm not telling people not to, but I don't know whether, I think this place is just set up and designed for the things it's set up and designed for. So I think my intention is really to, empower people, is to get into that sovereign energy, to self-realization of, you're your own leader. You're the one in charge. You make the decisions, discern, just realize who you are. And if you take that and you do that work here now in the physical, I think when that time comes, I think you're going to be unstoppable. And hopefully we can get ourselves out of this and help others get out of this. And hopefully, if this is a simulation again, take the batteries out, because we're the batteries. And when you take the batteries out of something, it stops working. And that's my aim. That's my goal. I would love to see this place end in its current form, whether it's always been like this, whether it's been overlaid, reprogrammed, infected, with a virus, is up for debate. But in its current format, the way it is right now, it needs to end. It's really not good for anyone. And the more of us that can embody that sovereign energy, I think we can, we can not only get out of here, but hopefully bring this place down on the way out.
Perfect. Brilliant. So Tony, thank you so much. Tell everybody where they can find you, about the work that you do and the different channels. I'll put everything underneath here in the show notes, but where can they hear more from Tony?
Yeah, so my YouTube channel, which is just my name, Tony Sayers, and then my website is transcendingtimes.org, where I have my work and sessions and things like that. And I'm on BitChute and Odyssey and Telegram. But yeah, they're the main ones. So Instagram.
Brilliant. Tony, it's always fascinating and always a laugh. Thanks, mate.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me on. It's nice to have these chats with another Brit. I get invited. Nothing against my American brothers and sisters and Canadians and Australians, but there's something about the underlying sarcasm that we have and the ironic sense of humor that comes out in these interviews.
I know it's funny because you're right. I do a lot of the podcasts that I get invited on are with Americans, and sometimes I say things and you can see that horrific.
Yeah.
You think, oh God, what have I done?
Yeah.
Anyway, man.
Yeah, it's like our line's there and then it's down some.
Yes. Thanks, mate. See you soon.
All right, you take care, Bill.
You too.
Music with the people.